Hi, everyone. I see we've got quite a few jumping on. We're going over 60. Hi, good evening. I'll just go first if you don't mind, Juliet.
Yes,
since
please.
I said hello. But of course, all of you know it's me, Deb Stranowski, our current international president. And I am excited for this wonderful series that the Legislation Public Policy Committee and our program manager Darrell Jones has put together for you. What an excitement for all of us, because we have over 240 plus of our wonderful GFWC club women, and I can't be more excited about that. So I'm going to turn it over to our Legislation Public Policy Chairman, Juliet Casper. Juliet, good to see you this evening.
Good to see you too, Madam President. We would love for the members to comment in the chat where they're from and what the name of their club is. We hope we have people from all over the country tonight tuning in for our Power of You webinar series. Darrell Jones, our programs manager, is going to give you some housekeeping tips for this Zoom webinar.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. We are really excited to have so many of you here. And we do hope that you continue to join us in this 6-week series to make you a better advocate for yourself, for GFWC, and for your communities. But before we do begin, there are a few housekeeping items that we want to go over. So we'd love to know, like Juliet said, where you're from and maybe what club you're associated with. So feel free to put that in the chat. But this is also a good opportunity for you to share some of your ideas and some of the work that you and your club have done in your local communities as advocates. So please share those things in the chat specifically. Any questions that you guys have for for Juliet tonight, please put those in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen or at the top, depending on how you have it set up. There should be a Q&A tab. And that's where you should put your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end. So that's when we will go over your questions, and we don't want to miss anything that you may have placed in the chat. And then along the way, Juliet will talk a little bit more about this as well, but there will be some polls. As those pop up on your screen, we just ask that you answer those as quickly as possible. And Juliet, I'll turn it back over to you.
And ladies, I also have one of my committee members, Sally Harper from New Mexico, on, and she's going to monitor the chat and the Q&A board for the questions at the end, and she will be posing those to us and we'll be answering them. So as you may see, we are recording this. I want to welcome everybody to this first session of the 6-part series called The Power of You, a GFWC training series. As you heard, my name is Juliet Casper, and I serve as the GFWC Legislation and Public Policy Committee Chairman. I live in Little River, South Carolina, and I represent the Southern region. All 6 sessions of this series, as I said, will be recorded, and they're going to be available for viewing by GFWC members at a later date. Watch News and Notes. This is an interactive workshop, so there will be some polls that will be prompted to your screen. Please answer those quickly as possible for the discussion and the training to keep moving along. Each GFWC region has a representative on this committee. You might want to take a screenshot of this slide so that you have our emails handy for future use. As I said, feel free to comment in the chat where you're from and share any experiences you have with local advocacy. Now let's get started. We're going to have our first poll question. It's going to be prompted to your screen in just a few seconds. Would you describe yourself as an advocate? We got 3 possible answers: yes, no, or maybe? So just take a few seconds to enter in how you would vote.
1:30 p.m. The hearing will be the first one with new District Attorney Bill Hicks overseeing the state's case. This hearing comes after federal prosecutors said they will not seek the death penalty against the accused Walmart shooter after Thursday's.
All right.
We're at about 91%. So if
Oh,
you haven't,
good.
go ahead and get those final answers in. All right, I think we can go ahead and end it.
All right, so let's see the results of the poll. It's great to see that you consider yourself an advocate. That is wonderful. And we're hoping you'll share your enthusiasm as an advocate with your club members. And those of you that answered no or maybe, hopefully by the end of this 6-part series, you'll be answering yes, and you'll be as enthusiastic as we are about legislative advocacy. Together, we advocate for those in need is the theme the Legislation and Public Policy Committee has adopted for this administration. Our guiding quote comes from Samantha Power, currently serving as the U.S. Agency for International Development Administrator. All advocacy is at its core an exercise in empathy. Power began her career as a journalist, reporting from such places as Bosnia, East Timor, Kosovo, Rwanda, Sudan, and Zimbabwe. Advocacy for many people is not a comfortable activity, and advocacy often is a result of a life experience. Power's life experiences led her to become a powerful advocate for U.S. foreign policy, human rights, and democracy. Here's an example of an unlikely advocate. There was a woman in 1860 in Cedarville, Illinois, with a congenital spinal defect. Her mother died in childbirth when she was only 2 years old. She did not walk upright like other children and was likely teased by other children. In her 20s, she was without a job or a husband. A trip to London with a friend changed the course of this woman's life. This sickly, motherless woman became an advocate for children, a reformer, a suffragist, an activist for peace, and ultimately the first woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And guess what? She was a member of the General Federation of Women's Clubs. Time for a poll question. Who is this wonderful woman? Please choose from the following choices: Jane Cunningham Crowley, Jane Addams, Eleanor Roosevelt. Oh, and I see we have another one, Meryl Streep. We all know that's a joke, right? She might be old, but not 1860 old. If you need a hint, look at the pictures on the screen. All right, Darrell, how many have answered so far?
We're at 75%.
Okay, couple more seconds, ladies, get your vote in. All right, I think we're ready for that. See how our ladies voted. Oh, wow. Nobody's quite sure who this woman is. The correct answer is Jane Addams. Jane was a member of the Chicago Women's Club. Jane Cunningham Crowley is the founder of GFWC. Eleanor Roosevelt was a club woman, and she was nominated 3 times for the Nobel Peace Prize but she never won. These women all shared a passion for helping others, just like you, or you would not have signed up for this webinar. Legislative advocacy requires taking your passion to the next level. Legislative advocacy is working with individual lawmakers or lawmaking bodies to gain support for your cause or initiative, or for the needs of a specific population, or for your organization, or for specific services. Advocacy includes educating legislators, supporters, and the public about an issue or cause. There are 3 important steps to advocacy. As volunteers, we have already accomplished the first step for successful advocacy, identifying the need. Every project we work on identifies a need. We hold food drives to feed the hungry. We donate blankets and coats to the homeless. We raise money for scholarships. We're great at volunteering. Volunteering meets an immediate need, while advocacy addresses the causes for that need. The next step to successful advocacy is to do your homework. To be an effective advocate, you need to know everything about the identified need. What are the causes and effects? What are the challenges and possible solutions? Are there statistics or studies to support the cause? GFWC has a few tools to help you with your homework. Time for another poll. How often do you access the GFWC member portal? Please choose from the following: weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, never.
We're at about 75% again, up 80 now.
Oh, good. Everybody's answering this one's quickly. All right, we ready for the results? Okay, looks like monthly. Well, that's good. I'm glad to see that outranks the never. Of course, we think there's stuff in that member portal that you could use weekly. If you have not signed up for the member portal, please do so and encourage your club members to do the same. Contact the staff at headquarters if you have any trouble signing up. Every member of GFWC is entitled to access to the member portal, and the portal has countless resources and tools for club members to utilize in everyday grassroots volunteering. One of the most essential tools you will find for doing your homework is the GFWC resolutions booklet. The GFWC resolutions booklet can be found in the member portal. Once you log into the member portal, click on the top by your name, and you'll see a pull-down menu, and you choose the digital library. The resolutions can be found under R. The resolutions are also located within the special and community service program guides found in the club manual. The 76-page booklet represents what GFWC stands for and advocates for. There are resolutions for the signature program, the junior special program, and each of the 5 community service programs. The whereas clauses of the resolution present the facts about the topic, and the resolved clauses state the actions to be taken. Often the resolution identifies federal laws and/or agencies which will help you with your research. Finding a resolution on point can help you define your message. You will need to be specific and crystal clear about what it is you're advocating for, whether it's funding, legislative language, a new policy, or a change in policy, or maybe a combination of everything. Your message needs to make sense and be easily understandable by those unfamiliar with the issue. If your message offers a solution, make sure that solution is feasible. The GFWC resolutions are concise, accurate, and germane to our work as members. Time for another poll. Have you signed up for the Legislative Action Center? Yes or no, or I will today. All right, look at those results. Yes, great. I would expect anybody interested in advocacy to be signed up for the Legislative Action Center. But I know that many members in my own club are not signed up. So all of you today have to make a concerted effort to get your members signed up for the Legislative Action Center. The Legislative Action Center is an excellent resource for finding the text of federal and state laws, as well as the text of proposed federal and state laws. That's part of your homework. Next week's session will focus on the Legislative Action Center, and Darrell Jones, our GFWC program manager, will walk you through the features of the Legislative Action Center, including finding a bill or law on a particular topic. Organizations and government agencies are other excellent resources for finding information and research on an issue. GFWC affiliate organizations offer unique and customized services, including materials, speakers, kits, and other additional information designed explicitly for GFWC clubs. These resources are filed under affiliate organizations in the digital library of the member portal. The last 3 sessions of this webinar will focus on the advocacy work of our affiliates and how each of you can advocate for them. In accordance with the resolutions adopted by the General Federation of Women's Clubs, GFWC often joins other national organizations to urge congressional or federal agency action on a particular matter. For example, consider our signature program, Domestic and Sexual Violence Awareness and Prevention. In this area, GFWC has worked with our affiliate, Hope for Justice, the National Task Force to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Futures Without Violence, and YWCA USA. Making connections with other like-minded organizations not only helps you define your message, but it can amplify your advocacy efforts. We will hear more about GFWC's connections, its legislative priorities, and our successes in our 3rd session, which will be led by our legislative consultant, Debbie Bryant of Unified Solutions. The last step to successful advocacy, and the most crucial step, is to take action. Margaret Thatcher, Britain's first female prime minister, said, "If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman." Let's not just talk about the problems we see in our communities. Let's do something about those problems. Time for our last poll. In the last year, how many GFWC legislative alerts have you responded to? 0, 1, 2, 3, or more.
We're at about 85%. Get those votes
Woo!
in.
Yeah, great. Well, let's see. I hope I see the answer I want. 3 or more, yes. That's exactly what we want to see. Now, the challenge for my committee is to work on those that haven't taken alert at all. And that is going to be our charge for this year. There are many ways to take action. And I've listed a few from the easiest to the hardest. Responding to the legislative alert could not be easier. Just sign up at the Legislative Action Center and check your email regularly. Darrell Jones will show you next week just how easy it is to sign up and to take action. Writing a letter to the editor for your local paper is another way to take action and garner support for your position. There's no cost involved, and most weekly papers welcome content submitted by their readers. In fact, the smaller the newspaper circulation, the easier it is to get your letter printed. Elected officials often monitor the letters to the editor to prepare for the hot issues at election time. Your article should be less than 300 words, personal, authoritative, and end with a call to action. Be sure to include your contact information. Many newspapers will only print a letter to the editor after calling the author to verify his or her identity and address. Newspapers will not give out that information and will usually only print your name and the city should your letter be printed. To reach a younger audience, consider a social media campaign. You can use Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram to share information, photos, personal stories, events, opportunities to connect with your elected officials in person or online. GFWC provides tutorials on all these platforms, and you guessed it, the member portal. Go to the digital library and choose C for Communications and Public Relations, and you will find the CPR toolkit. Meeting with elected officials is listed last because I think that is the most intimidating task for most of us. Long-term effective advocacy is built on the positive, trusting relationships that are formed with elected officials and their staff. It takes time to build that kind of relationship. This is an excellent time to remind folks that GFWC is nonpartisan and advocates for issues, not people. GFWC provides tips for meeting with legislators on its website, on the Legislative Public Policy page. A sample leave behind sheet for when the meeting has ended can be found in the member portal's digital library. Choose L, then view the Legislative Public Policy Toolkit. Are you thinking right now that this advocacy thing is just too much or too hard? Well, let me tell you, one of the top 10 projects in 2021 for legislation public policy came from a small club of 25. the Columbiana Culture Club located in Shelby County, Alabama. This club led a successful grassroots effort to educate their community about the environmental impact, the increased traffic, and the strain on public safety that would result from a proposed private toll bridge. Club members contacted area legislators and county commissioners. Ultimately, the license to operate and build the private toll bridge was denied by unanimous vote of the Shelby County Commission. This club identified a need to protect the environment. They did their homework on environmental impact of the proposed bridge, and they took action by contacting elected officials. That's successful advocacy. As GFWC advocates, we dream big, we sparkle more, and we shine bright. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this very first session of our advocacy webinar. We'll now take time for some questions. Sally, what questions have been posted in the Q&A?
Thanks for asking, Juliet. It's great to have so many of our fellow club members on from around the country. The first question we received was from Ivy in Indiana. And I think you have kind of responded to her question through the course of this presentation, but she asked, how do individual GFWC club members interact with our public policy and legislation committee to make recommendations or modify existing policy positions?
Okay, well, Ivy, our positions, our legislative priorities are set at the beginning of the year and then in the middle of the year. And they are all based on our resolutions. And so we take a look at what the resolutions say about particular hot bills that have bipartisan support. We always are looking for it to be an issue that many of the folks in Congress support. We're not going to likely choose any kind of bill to support where it's party dominated. We want both parties to be involved in advocating. So the Violence Against Women Act is a good example of one that we frequently send alerts on for that reason, because it has bipartisan support. It's directly connected to our signature project and to the resolutions that we have.
Okay, our next issue comes from Alexandria, and she writes, and it sounds like a common problem, Juliet. I've had a difficult time multiple times trying to access the portal that has kind of turned me off. And I'm sure Darrell will address that in his presentation next week.
Yeah, the portal has been a challenge, but I'll tell you the easiest and best thing to do is to call headquarters. The staff there are wonderful. They will walk you through what needs to be done. Deb, you can probably.
Yes, in fact, I answered Alexandria in the chat a little earlier, and I'll tell the rest of all you wonderful members just to be patient with us, because we know of the problems of the member portal, looking at other avenues. But I agree with Juliet. For the time being, our staff will be more than happy to assist you in any way to get onto the member portal, to assist you to develop your profile, to find something within our digital library, which Juliet touched on here, and just to hang in with us, because we know of the situations and the difficulties all of you have. And I know we tell you have been telling you to have a staff member can assist you in any way, but we are trying to go in a direction to find a program that will be user-friendly and user-friendly to us, all of us, from me through the executive committee, through the board of directors, through state presidents, state directors. We all have had our moments, I'm sure. So just hang in there with us, and we hope by spring we can have a great program for you to find all of the great resources that GFWC supplies to each and every member of the General Federation of Women's Clubs. So hang in there, please.
Thank you, Deb. One of our next questions came from Colleen, and I believe she's from California, because she says, please read my article in the California Club Woman magazines from January about child and forced marriages. We need to do something about this in our resolutions. Would one of you like to address how she can contact
Sure.
and get
So-
the resolution up?
Yeah, so typically the way resolutions work is, Colleen, you would first look to see if your state has a resolution. And if not, you can, as a club member in your state, propose a resolution that California wants to adopt. And then that can be sent to the GFWC Resolutions Committee to be reviewed to see if it's something that we want to adopt. And typically the Resolutions Committee is going to look and see what resolutions we already have and whether we can add something to an existing resolution or whether it is something that we need to add as a brand new resolution. So at convention in June in Louisville, there will be a time where we'll be putting forth some resolutions to be adopted by the GFWC body. So you might think about getting a resolution adopted on the state level at your state convention, and then you can send it to us after that for consideration next year.
Thank you, Juliet. Our next question came from Nancy, who is in North Dakota. She says, and I'm sure Darrell will be interested in this as well, I've responded to one alert, which is exactly the number that I've received. Do we need to sign up again? I did post it after the international convention at the new site, but I must say I've only received one so far.
Well, Nancy, that is certainly a challenge that Darrell and I do have. What we've been trying to do when an alert goes out is we are sharing that with all of the committee members of legislation, and then they are pushing that out to the state presidents and the directors of junior clubs and the legislation chairs to then also send it down to the clubs and the club members. You may also see on various Facebook sites like the GFWC Advancements and Programs Forum, when we've posted an alert, that's usually posted there so that people can know that there's one out, because sometimes for whatever reason, the email doesn't get delivered, and it may be because whoever your email host is thinks it's spam and they put it in your spam folder or your junk folder. Or sometimes if you have put an away message, like if you're going out of town and you have a message that says you're out of town, if the alert goes out at that time and it bounces back, then that can drop your email from the next alert. So it is a challenge. Typically, somebody asked about the frequency. I saw that in the question and answer, and it really depends on Congress, the frequency. If something's really happening, at the end of this last term in December, there were a lot of bills that they were trying to get passed through before, the new congressman came in January. So there was a lot of activity that Debbie Bryant was monitoring for us. And Debbie will share some of that information too in her session as to how we decide we need an alert. And there's certainly a format as to how we write the alert. And I think you'll find that third session may be helpful to knowing how that process works. And then it's helpful for us as a committee to know if you didn't get an alert so that we can follow up and see with our provider why people were missing the emails.
Juliet, our next question comes from Wendy. And she says the club manual encourages starting single topic clubs, but they aren't something we see right now in GFWC Connecticut so far. Could forming an online club for women who are interested in being a part of advocacy, but aren't able to spend time in regular club meeting projects be a good support to the Legislative Action Center?
Wow, that sounds like a great idea for a cyber club that we could create that would be focused just on legislative advocacy. Yeah, we'll have to bring that to membership, right?
No, that's an excellent idea, Juliet.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
very much for that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. The next comes from, well, we're back to the portal again, but Christina asked, I can't find the digital library in my portal.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of funny. You have to go up to where your name is or where your picture is and hover your mouse over it, and there'll be a pull down menu, and then you'll see digital library. So it is a funny way to find it in the portal.
Catherine reverts back to an issue that you've already addressed, but she says she has the same issue as Colleen did, that she had signed up but had never received one. But she says, regardless, she does visit the LAC website every 2 weeks. So we really are excited about that. Encourage her to continue that.
I
Yeah,
just wanted to
for
jump
sure.
in on that really quickly. Juliet addressed it correctly before, that it does depend on Congress and what's going on, how frequently we send out alerts. We don't act on everything. We do have to stick to things that pertain to our resolutions. If we don't have a resolution on an issue, then we don't take action on it. Also, if you have not received an alert, please feel free to email me, D as in dog, N Jones at gfwc.org, or programs@gfwc.org to let me know that you are not receiving the emails. But if you've just signed up for the LAC recently, then there have not been any alerts that has gone out in the new year.
Correct.
Just close to the end of the last year.
That's correct.
Okay, Juliet, you're going to be excited about this. Someone is mentioning our scavenger hunt.
Oh,
And
good.
asks, should we submit our documentation anytime soon? I assume she means.
Yes,
How-
for sure. You can send us information on how you're progressing on the scavenger hunt at any time, and we'll share that out in our newsletter. We might share it on news and notes if you send us a cool picture. This is a 2-year kind of project, and you can repeat the items multiple times during the 2 years. But I did receive a scavenger report from a club already. And be sure, if you haven't sent in your award entries on your state level, to include that scavenger hunt information under legislation and public policy when you submit to your state, because that's the proper place to report that activity. And who knows, you might be one of those clubs on the state level recognized with an award that then comes along on the national level.
Juliet, I think it might be a good opportunity now for those who may not have read about the challenge to just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, okay. So the legislation public policy community or club connection, I think is what it's called, or community connection.
Connection.
Anyway, it's a scavenger hunt where we have 9 items that we challenge you to complete, and you can complete them multiple times. And one of the items is taking a photo in front of your state capitol, preferably in your GFWC shirt, because that gets you bonus points. They're taking a photo with your legislation, public policy committee members. So, technically you could probably take a screenshot, and here I am with Deb and Darrell and Sally. Plus, we're doing a webinar, and a webinar is also on the scavenger hunt. Taking action at the Legislative Action Center is one of the items on the scavenger hunt. And the beauty of the hunt is that you can do this as an individual, you can do it as your club, or as the state. So we can actually get, multiple reports, a report from your state legislative chairman, we can get a report from your club, we can get your report. We just want to get you out there and get comfortable with going to the State House and with meeting with your elected officials, all while wearing GFWC attire, because we're also trying to raise our brand. We want people to look to the General Federation of Women's Clubs as an organization that supports legislation, that has important women that are going to vote in an election, and we want them to vote and support bills that are important to our organization.
Juliet, our wonderful Debbie Bryant has mentioned that we do have a resolution for the
child
marriage.
Oh, excellent.
It's in our domestic violence resolution. It's included in that. So Colleen, she responded to Colleen, and I think Colleen will follow up on that, she said. Connie has mentioned, she asked, how can she change her contact information because I'm now in a new congressional district?
Colleen, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Colleen, if you just, or was it Connie? I'm sorry.
Connie.
Connie, you can just go to the Legislative Action Center and resubscribe. It'll use the same email and your same address, and it'll make sure that your information is updated. If that's what you want to do and feel comfortable doing, if that makes you feel more comfortable. The system should automatically update your congressional district. Our fiscal note software is aware of all the congressional changes. If you're a member of Congress has changed, and they update that frequently as it happens. You'll all notice that throughout the month of January, if you're getting new governors or new members of Congress, that may happen at different times. I'll tell you that the governor of Maryland was just sworn in yesterday. So that was just updated in the Legislative Action Center yesterday. So it's very quickly. They are pretty much on top of it. So if your legislative or congressional district did change, that should be reflected already. But if you feel more comfortable just going in and resubscribing, that'll do it as well.
Juliet, Andy has said thank you for the information that we've been putting out, but she says she thinks a workshop on meeting with public officials would be good in the future.
Yay, I love it. You got to come to Louisville. We are going to follow up this Power of You webinar with a Power of Us workshop. And it's going to be very interactive. We're going to be in groups, and we're going to be doing things on that take action list. You're going to leave that workshop with actual documents, samples of things that you can do in your own club and in your own community. There will be things like letter to the editor, resolution, leave behind sheet, action alert. So we would love to see all of you at that workshop that we'll be holding at the convention in Louisville in June.
We have a comment from Marilyn, and she said she accessed the portal without issue, but now she's looking for resolutions. I think she wants to look under our resources.
Resources and letter R. And what is a great idea to do so that you don't have to keep going back to look for it? It's going to pull up as a PDF, and you can just save that to your desktop or save it in a folder on your computer, and then you'll always have those resolutions to go back to refer to, and you don't have to go through the member portal again.
And we have a wonderful comment from Susan from Florida. She says, if anybody in Florida wants to go to the state capitol, she said, we'll all go together as a show of force. And any other club in state capitals would want to invite clubs to come in and do the same.
That's great. Yeah, we would love to see clubs host a legislation day, a day where you invite all your members to your capital and you do go as a group. I know that because of COVID, many capitals didn't allow big groups to come visit, but that's all changing. So you should be able to easily contact your local representative or senator and say, my club wants to come. And what'll often happen is they will introduce you on the floor at the beginning of the session. So they will recognize your club. Again, a wonderful thing to have a GFWC club recognized on the floor of a state house or Senate session. And it's, again, a great way for you to get to know your members and to advocate together by taking a trip to your state capital. I should also mention, you can go to other capitals, okay? If you're traveling, feel free to be in a GFWC shirt in front of the Capitol in DC. You can come to Columbia, South Carolina and take a picture, wherever you go, because really we're trying to hit home that members belong on Capitol Hill.
Well, we have a very, very active member here, Colleen, who has addressed a few other questions to us, Juliet. She says her Legislative and Public Policy Committee is very active, and we have elected officials, including county supervisors, assembly members, state senators, etc., who speak annually at a monthly meeting of our group. Our agenda covers government at all levels and GFWC items from the Legislative Action Center. I'm always looking for new content. Have you considered having an online meeting forum quarterly where we can hear more about GFWC priorities and ask questions we may have? Of course, that might be Deborah.
Hey, I think our committee would be totally open to that. And I know Debbie Bryan is always willing to share information.
Right.
So great. I'm loving all these great suggestions we're having on this webinar. It's wonderful.
These ladies are thinking for sure, Juliet.
Mhm.
And the next question is, how can you engage legislators to introduce a bill that union members and administrators reject? That's tough.
Yeah, and that sort of sounds like maybe a particular issue in a state. And when we do the Legislative Action Center next week, there is a way to look for state laws, and Darrell will show that to you as well. I would suggest that you look for like-minded organizations to partner up with. You know, if you're up against union members and administrators not liking something, then you need to find the groups that are on your side so that you can bind together. Make those connections and see where it goes on that level. Well, this is great. I think
Juliet,
yeah.
we have no new questions or chats
All
at
right.
the moment.
Well, I hope everybody found this information helpful. I hope that we maybe inspired you, motivated you. Although I think many of you already are advocates, I want you to try to share this back at your club level. And please sign up if you haven't for next week and for all the sessions. even if you don't think you can attend them all, sign up for them, because again, we're going to have this available for recording. And if you've registered, you're the group that for sure those recordings are going to be pushed out to. So it is important to sign up, even if you think you might not be able to go to them all. And the affiliates, it's really going to be great to hear, you know, how they want us, what laws they are looking to have passed, what bills are they following, you know. That's going to take our relationship with the affiliates to the next level. And we're just going to be sparkling and shining everywhere, aren't we, Deb?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I want to thank everyone this evening for taking a little time out of your schedule wasn't this just an excellent presentation? The webinar was great, Juliet. Your committee is doing fantastic jobs. And Darrell, good for you. Everybody's working together. And when we collaborate, what great things can happen. And I love this because it's a great kickoff for a wonderful many weeks of series all the way through to our affiliate organization. So if you enjoyed this one, I know you're going to be back, and we can't wait to see you too. So
Yes,
thank
yes,
you
yes.
very much, Juliet, Sally, and Darrell, for a great evening to advocate for legislation and public policy for our members to do, which, as you said earlier, Juliet, it's our women have been doing that for years and years and years, and we want to continue to do that. So thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you. Good,
everybody.
yeah, good night, everybody. Bye.